What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you some new details for Owlcat's upcoming title, The Expanse, Osiris Reborn, which is taking part in Gamescom, which has been going on the past couple of days, and in particular, I believe they have a demo at the show. And what's more, a little while ago, they reached out and asked me and a lot of other people to sit in on a presentation of that demo, as well as get the opportunity to ask some questions and everything afterwards, and there was a lot of interesting information there that I wanted to share with people, which is what we are doing here. With that in mind, this was a hands-off experience. I did not play this for myself. I did not play this new demo experience for myself, and they provided B-roll and everything to show off for the video itself. So if it seems like what you're seeing does not line up perfectly with what I am saying, that would be why. I'm going to do my best there, but we'll see how it goes. That said, we also know some other things that have come out since I've talked about this game last. It's got a spring 2027 release date these days, so not too much longer before we see this thing out in the wild. They've been busy since the past beta update. They have changed some voices, they've updated the enemy AI, they've smoothed out animations, working on play styles, etc. So it does look like they've seen a significant bit of improvement and progress since I last looked at this game personally, and keep in mind it's still in active development, so some of this stuff will change farther. In particular, however, this demo that we are looking at is a mid-game mission that takes place on Ganymede. Ganymede, if you didn't know, is a moon of Jupiter, and we are there on an infiltration mission. And we've got a few goals there, getting to the bottom of what the Protogen soldiers are up to, just kind of a reconnaissance mission to see about all the things they have going on, and building off the beta, they have some of the data from the servers and whatnot that were a significant part of the mission there. And so in that way, it sort of builds on that. They did also point out that this is just sort of one option. You could have potentially done other things before this, different choices of like missions and the like. This is just what they're showing off here. Now, while there is some non-combat stuff, because we are going through what appears to be a relatively linear mission, there's not a ton of like exploration and stuff to talk about. And so a lot of the focus was on the improved combat experience and the stuff they've changed from the beta in that regard, while also showing a couple things that we just hadn't seen before. So for instance, in the beta, you're kind of in the process of gathering up all of your companions, so we didn't necessarily see how they were going to be talking to you like we know they should be when you have more than the required amount for the mission. So if you don't know, when you take companions with you in this game, they will be on the comms with you even if they are not in the mission with you. And so while some of them can only do certain things if they are there, you'll still get their dialogue and stuff because they'll be talking to you, and we actually saw that in progress as part of this experience. You can see it pop up on screen in places as well, where you're just having conversations as they sort of like run support, if you will, while the mission itself is actively happening. Before things devolve into an outright firefight, we do see a little bit of non-combat stuff, mostly us doing that infiltration, trying to fit in, talking to a few people, and this is mostly presented as you trying to find different ways to your objective, be that talking your way past a invoice that you need to deliver or finding another way to actually get that delivered, having conversations with the people you are there to see, etc. And they did call attention to one interaction in particular where you're talking to a few Protogen soldiers, and you can convince one of them to either transfer or not. And they did specifically mention during this demo that this choice would have some consequence, like presumably I would guess if you convince this person to transfer, they show up later or something. I just thought it was odd how much attention they gave to that interaction. But unsurprisingly, as with every good infiltration mission, there comes a point where it stops being an infiltration mission, as things take a bit of a turn. So, before I talk more about the combat, just to give a brief synopsis of the rest of it. So, the proto-molecule infections are actually seen here. One of them breaks loose. We see an early outbreak of that, which already builds off some of the things we'll have seen earlier in the game if you were playing it, but in this mission, we get a good look at one of those guys in motion, actively attacking things, and fighting it becomes a sort of central focus of the wrap-up of this particular mission. So that's pretty cool to see that actually kind of going, and how creepy and unsettling those things can be when they're actually in motion and on your screen. But we are going to have to fight a lot more than that. So a little ways into it, we do meet Michael. Michael is one of our companions. They do also mention this is definitely one of the later companions that you get. This is like in between the beginning and mid-game, so I guess you could say early mid-game is about when you pick this guy up, and he joins you for the rest of the mission as a soldier as well. Now, when it comes to some of the combat and things they showed, the character they were playing for the demo that I watched was a very run-and-gun, aggressive sort of play style. Now, what I thought was really interesting about this is outside of just, again, running and gunning, a lot of the combat they showed off had you personally directing a lot of the action by giving your companions commands, as well as directing even things like your gadgets via a drone that would move around. So you would be able to have the drone target things, have your companions specifically act by, say, shooting something in the environment, using their abilities on things in the environment, and so you were kind of directing all of that in addition to what you were doing. And in that way, you played an incredibly active role as a bit of a squad leader, actually. So I assume this is just one of the ways they built out this character. We know from the beta there's going to be multiple ways to build a character, but this seemed to be a much more, again, sort of squad leader focused type character where you're doing a lot of the damage, yes, but you're also effectively delegating so much stuff to your companions that it really is a group effort. They did also mention here that they are still actively working on the difficulty and the enemy AI, like balancing what normal is supposed to be about, but once they've got that sorted out, they do plan on working on higher difficulties, as we have seen in some of their previous, albeit different genre type of games. They still want to bring a more difficult experience to the people they can, but right now they're worried about balancing the basics. I will say that from what I saw in this demo, they still have some work to do there. There are certainly some enemies that are dangerous, and the enemy eye is actually pretty good about seeking you out and actively trying to kill you, but I did also notice instances of enemies just like standing out of cover or moving directly to you, like through an open area, without any regards for their own safety, and there are, again, some places to improve there, but I think it is coming along much, much better than what was just purely available in the beta. They also showed off some different weapons and armors. I wouldn't say any of this is like too wildly exciting. We saw a lot of this in the beta as well, with the crafting system that would allow you to mod and change things, but also, of course, different armors that do different things for you. They showed off a few different weapons, things like a sniper rifle, SMGs, just a wide variety of what was available that I think was designed to give people a good snapshot of course, the game itself. Now, I will say, environmentally, I like a lot of what they are doing here. We already know there's not going to be like ship-to-ship combat, but they still try to make it clear that you're out in space. And so there's a point where you're moving through an agricultural center where they're growing all of their food and everything, and that looks remarkably different from the other places that are more of like a space warehouse type of situation. And I like a lot of what they're doing with the environmental effects. Now, speaking of space, this particular mission didn't have much low gravity, but when we were able to wrap things around to asking questions, one of the more interesting questions I think that was asked was actually about low gravity missions in particular. They did mention that there are some missions that will focus on that more specifically, or others where it's just like a part of the mission like we saw in the beta, but it does look like that will come up in more places than just on rare occasion, that kind of thing, which I imagine will probably be more prevalent in some of the missions that we've seen in previous gameplay trailers where you are kind of exposed to open space, or like the ship you're on is being destroyed in some way with these like interactable and destructible environments. You'll probably notice that in the gameplay. Many of the places you can take cover and things like that are all destructible. There are ways to get rid of them, which plays a role in the overall combat scenarios, of course. But moving to sort of start wrapping this up, overall, I thought this was a really interesting demo. I would say none of this was like truly unique information, but it was nice to get new looks at things like the different areas we'll be going to, seeing the proto-molecule infection in full swing and actively like fighting off somebody infected with it. That kind of stuff was really cool. I like that probably the most, and seeing the improvements from the beta, things like the animation, and while you guys won't be able to hear it, and I have nothing to show it to you even as a sample, I did feel like the voices in particular were improved a lot here. I know that was a sticking point for people with the beta. That's obviously a very subjective thing though, so we'll see how people feel about it when they get around to it, but they did say they were taking that feedback seriously, and it seems like that work is already, in motion. So overall, I'm pretty excited for this one. I think they're moving in the right direction. I think this is going to be fun for a spring 2027 game, which is, again, when it is supposed to be releasing. But as for today, I do think that is pretty much going to do it. Certainly hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, or you're looking forward to more coverage of this title, definitely drop a like, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube jazz. But regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.